Recently, YouTube has been making changes to how annotations are displayed. This video was uploaded November 2013, so the changes probably occurred a month or two before then. This particular video, which has annotations for its narration, had a bug in it, and what it was annotations are on this video. This guy is playing a game and annotations are scrolling through narrating what's going on in the video. And I left a comment on it saying, I encountered this weird glitch with the annotations. I was only seeing jagged fragments of them in full screen, with the rest sort of crossed out in brown. Now, if you haven't seen this bug, that probably sounds like nonsense, which it now is because the bug has been fixed. And someone replied to me, which was nice, because not because of what he said, but because it revealed to me that other people were having the same problem. It wasn't, for instance, a problem with Flash, a Flash update, or some client-side issue. It was YouTube's problem. And the guy said, found a fix for it, just temp then, whatever that means. Select the wheel, then turn off annotations and turn them back on again, which works. I mean, I figured that out for myself well before I ever left a comment about this, but this does work for about 30 seconds, and then the brown stuff starts covering up the annotations again. So in case you're wondering what I was talking about, imagine watching this video with the annotations displaying what's going on, and then the next annotation comes up, and it looks like this. And there's a bunch of brown stuff covering up all of the text. What's that all about, right? I know this looks ridiculous. This is not a screenshot. This is something that I did in Paint. And the shade of brown may have been a little bit lighter. The blocks may have been a little bit bigger. I don't know. It doesn't really matter. But it looked like this. An annotation would pop up and this would appear. And so the way to fix that would be to go into the settings menu, turn off annotations, turn them on again, and then you would be able to see the annotation. If you pause the video, you would read the annotation. Maybe you'd have to go back in the video so that you know what was going on when the annotation was playing. I mean, some annotations only appear for a couple of seconds, so you might miss what was going on while you were turning the annotations on and off to get this brown junk off of the annotation. This is kind of what it looked like. And then, once you turn the annotations off and on again, you'd be able to see the annotation, which looked like this. Well, this bug has been fixed, so that's not really what I'm talking about today. But it was around this time that this bug came around, that YouTube was making changes to how annotations are authored. In particular, how the size of the annotations work. Now, what you would do in the past is in the annotation editor, you would click on the video frame, type out what you wanted, and make the annotation window as big as you wanted it to be so that the text would fit. And then, once you typed it out, you would drag the edges of the annotation window around the text so that you didn't have all that empty space. That was an annotation. That has changed now. Now how that works is you go into the annotation editor, you type on the right side of the video frame, you click on the video frame to decide where you want the annotation to be. Then you type on the right side, and you don't actually control the size of the text in the annotation. The size and shape of the annotation window does. So if you want bigger text, you drag the annotation window larger. If you want smaller text, you drag the annotation window smaller. So you don't have direct control over the size of the font in the annotation window now. And you also don't have direct control over the amount of gray space in your annotation window now, unless you don't care what size the words in the annotation window. I mean, you really don't have control, because even if you make the size of the annotation window and therefore the gray space around the words smaller, the font size will keep changing and you'll still have empty space in that annotation window. Now, the reason I brought that up, which is kind of sort of related to what I'm actually talking about today, is over here we have a video of mine with annotations. Now, I probably recorded this video 10 years ago. I did not record commentary on it at that time. I don't even think I had a microphone. And when I uploaded this video to YouTube, I thought, well, maybe I could use the annotation feature to add some kind of narration to the video, because I didn't really want to record commentary 10 years after I recorded the video. That wouldn't really fit that well. And I didn't want to edit the old video files, so I thought annotations are probably a good way for me to do narration on these old videos. And so that's what I did. I'll play this for a little while, and you can see here's the first annotation right here, just a couple seconds after the video starts. And it says beginning of segment 1 dash. And there's a whole bunch of gray space right here. And as I just got finished saying, when I wrote an annotation, I typed out the text, I dragged the edges of the annotation window to fit around the text so that there would be no empty gray space. And there's a whole bunch of gray space here. And here's the thing. This annotation doesn't really mean anything the way it's written. It just says beginning of segment 1 dash. What does that mean? What is that supposed to... Of course this is the beginning. You just started the video. Why would I write that? Well, here's what's interesting. If I go into full screen, I'm surprised I can record this, we see a change. Beginning of segment 1 dash city. That's the name of the segment. City. That's the whole reason I put an annotation there. Because I recorded this in segments, and this segment was called city. So if you're not watching this in full screen and you don't see the end of the annotation, it doesn't mean anything. And there's all this gray space there that I didn't leave there. And it just goes on like that. So I wrote all sorts of annotations on these videos, and the ends of them have been truncated off. Here's another annotation. There, blah, 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 and there's a bunch of gray space at the bottom of this annotation. Now, at this point, this looks like a complete annotation. There's a period at the end of a sentence here. I assume that's the whole annotation, but I don't really know. And I don't really think this is how I put the annotation on this video when I wrote it. I tended to make a little column over here off to the side so that it would be unobtrusive, so that it wouldn't block the action in the video while the annotation was displayed. I intended people to read the annotations while the video was playing, not pause the video and read the annotation and then hope the annotation goes away so that they can see past the annotation to the video again. I didn't do that. I expected people to play it through, read what was there, and get some interesting information about what was going on. So I don't know if this is the whole annotation because there's some blank space here. Let's go into full screen. And as it turns out, this is the whole annotation, but because of the way that YouTube has changed annotations being authored or displayed or something behind my back, it doesn't look the way that it was typed anymore, and there's empty space here. And you know what? If I went into the annotation editor and attempted to edit this and drag this annotation window in so that the gray space was truncated and the gray space was eliminated, that wasn't next to the text, that wasn't behind the text, it would just make the text size smaller. Now this isn't a bad text size, but I don't want it smaller than it is. But if I drag this window to fit the text, it's just going to make the text smaller, and there's going to be a bunch of gray space around that smaller text. That is exactly what I don't want to do. And I don't want to spend 20 minutes dragging the annotation window back and forth trying to get the perfect balance of text size and empty gray space. I'd never wanted to do that. And when I wrote this annotation, that wasn't even an issue because, as I mentioned, that's just not how the annotation editor worked in April 2013. And the whole video is filled with this kind of problem. What's the next annotation here? The angle and lack of visibility makes one feel he is driving faster than he really. Empty gray space. What does that mean? Where was I going with that thought? Well, I don't know. Here's something interesting. If I go into full screen, well, there's the end of the sentence right there. Faster than he really is. Now that's kind of, nice to actually see what I typed out. Notice that the text actually fills the box, more or less. In the old annotation editor, I could drag this right side of the window closer, and it would push the he in, makes one feel he, onto the next line, but I couldn't do that now. But here's the interesting thing. If you view this in the large player, you can see the whole annotation too, but there's a whole bunch of gray space. So small player just truncates the end of the annotation. The large player shows the whole annotation, but it leaves a bunch of empty gray space, which perhaps has something to do with the font size here. I don't know. And then in full screen, the font size looks like it might be a little bigger or a little bolder, and it fills the whole annotation window. So I usually use the small player or full screen. Some people might use the large player. Here's what I'm trying to say. The annotation looks different no matter which video format it's viewed in. Everyone viewing this video is going to see the annotations differently. I thought that was what YouTube or Google was trying to prevent. Different people viewing the same thing and getting a different experience. This is awful. The annotations are nearly useless because if you write your annotations on your video to look a certain way, everyone's going to see them differently. They're going to look different on every single computer. Maybe on some computers, the annotations are going to block something in the video frame, or maybe they're going to be the wrong shape or the wrong size. Maybe there'll be a whole bunch of empty gray space that you didn't think was going to be there when you wrote the annotation, but which now is present. Let's see, is there some other examples here? I think there are. Let's see what I got here. So annotations are not displayed the way that I wrote them. And I think that this has to do with the changes that YouTube made last year. I start the engine after I get out for the inevitable car. Well, you may be able to figure out what the end of that sentence is. You may not be. As a viewer, you may care, or you may just say, oh, that's weird, and skip over it and not pay any attention. And that's exactly what I don't want a viewer to do as the video author. I want them to know what I have taken the time and effort to say there. It would improve the video experience. And so these annotations are just not displaying correctly at the regular video player size. They do seem to work in full screen, although I'm pretty certain that I wouldn't have typed out the annotation window to look in this shape. I don't think I would have done that. I think I would have made a more tall rectangular shape for the annotation windows. The inevitable car. So, beginning of segment 2. Gee, I wonder what this one is called. Well, you're not going to find out if you're not in full screen or in the large player. It's just ridiculous. Let's see, what else do we have here? A little bit of the video. Annotation. Ignore the two thieves to the right and be sure this guy swings at ... Well, whatever the end of that annotation is, it couldn't be that important. The guy didn't even finish typing it out, right? That's pretty much what I'm thinking a viewer is seeing. If they don't see what's going on, then they're not going to worry about it. They're just going to keep moving. They're just going to say, oh, well, I guess someone screwed up this somehow. Well, how about this? Not liking this guy. Does that annotation have an end? Let's find out. Not liking this guy here. Yeah, fine. Short little statement. Huge amounts of gray space in this annotation window, which is exactly what I was trying to avoid when I put annotations on this video. I wouldn't have put them on the video if I thought they were going to block as much space as they're currently blocking. But at the same time, I don't want to go back through my videos and edit every single annotation and, go around with a weaselly text size business to fix this. It's not worth my time, and I probably couldn't get it to look as good as it did when I wrote them out in the first place. It just won't work out. As you can see, I wrote a lot of annotations to explain my thought process when I was making the video. Here's another one. If this guy would go for poly, he would already be on the ground. Instead, he turns on point, something, something, something. I don't know. What could that mean? What could that possibly say? There's some more guys coming to fight. Let them go for. Probably important, but I don't know what the end of that might say. That's displaying correctly. Or wait, is it? Let me double check that. I'm not sure if that's actually displaying at the right time. Double check that. Yeah, that was correct. So the timing is unchanged. It's just the placement and the size and the miscellaneous truncation. Look at this. The crowbar in particular has a way of hitting. That doesn't even mean anything. The crowbar has a way of hitting. That's hilarious. Now, if you actually go into full screen, you can see it says the crowbar has a way from hitting from behind. Even that's kind of a weird thing to say, but it really explains what I'm saying, which is that when people are using the crowbar in this game, it has a way of hitting things other than what it appears to be aimed at. And this guy's got a crowbar, so I'm being real careful with him. If you didn't see the end of that annotation, you wouldn't have a clue what I was trying to say there, or why it would matter. And I don't know if... here's a good one. I'll cut my name in. What does that mean? What? Come on. That's hilarious. It doesn't even make sense. It's nonsense. There's a purpose to that annotation, but you're not going to see it based on what's displaying here today on YouTube. What else do we have here? See, there's more to this annotation here. You're not going to see it. Skip ahead here. Some other good examples of this annotation thing. I should have. Yeah, I should have. I shouldn't. I should have known that YouTube was going to break my annotations 6 months after I wrote them. I should have. Who knows what the end of that annotation says? Or said. Maybe one day YouTube is just going to decide, annotations seem like a good idea, but we don't really want to do that anymore. They'll just delete all the annotations that were written on a video. Never mind the time and the effort that people may have spent, putting annotations on the video to look a certain way. When I put annotations on these videos, I was very careful about how I placed them, where I put them. This annotation right there, I would want to have placed it so that it didn't block anything that was appearing up here. I was very, very scrupulous about blocking any action, any interface, any GUI that might be on the screen. I made sure that didn't happen. What else do we have here? I was trying to avoid her. And here's an example of an annotation that seems to be complete. As you can see, You see the end of this sentence here. There is a period. However, that's not the whole annotation. And there's a whole bunch of gray space there that I didn't leave in the annotation when I wrote it. You get the first sentence. That's pretty much what I wrote there, but that's not how I wanted viewers to see the annotation. The whole annotation, in fact, says role-playing. And that was something that I kept writing in this video. I was playing a certain way, not because there was a reason for me to be doing it, but because I was role-playing. I wanted to sort of give viewers an insight into why I was doing what I was doing. And this comment, I was trying to avoid her, it just does not fulfill the purpose of the annotation, even though viewers can still read the first sentence, or the first half of the annotation, in the regular video player. And so YouTube has, they released the annotation tool. They encouraged investment in this tool. They encouraged people to take time and effort and energy to write annotations on their videos. And then, one day, they decided to change how those annotations are displayed behind people's backs. And I think that's remarkably stupid. I mean, it's not worth my time to go and fix all of these things. And if I actually did go through the trouble of fixing all of these annotations, not only would they look worse, but YouTube would probably make some changes next week anyway that broke them again. The Model T doesn't do. And so I think that by asking people to write all of these annotations, YouTube probably didn't anticipate or expect people to use the annotation tool the way that I'm using it. But I have. I found my own creative way to use the annotation tool. And they have... I was very particular about where I put the annotations, and now that's all broken.
Go and nail him. You can't feel sorry for these animals. They chew you in the back the first opportunity he gets.
I thought about what my mother or Sarah would do if they saw me there.
This one's finished. One less to worry about. Why you stand there with that look on your face? Remember? Those guys want...
And so, for YouTube to ask authors to spend all this time and all this effort to annotate their videos, to make them look nice, to make some kind of a presentation with their annotations, instead of just slathering a box over their video frames and block their videos for however many seconds they choose to block them, and then change how those annotations are displayed a short time later without any kind of tools to deal with it, without any kind of notice, without any kind of provisions for the people that made that investment, is really disrespectful. It was a complete waste of effort for me to write the annotations the way I wrote them, because they didn't stay that way. Who knows what YouTube will do next week?